Good evening. The headlines tonight. A Scots guardsman, presumed dead in the Falklands, walked into a farmhouse at Bluff Cove this weekend, fit and well. The two sides in the sea link dispute have been meeting at ACAS. The NUS have claimed 100% response to their strike, but many passengers still managed to sail. Bob Mellish, former Labour Chief Whip and present MP for Bermondsey, has resigned from the Labour Party. Now these and other stories with subtitles. A British soldier who'd been given up for dead in the Falklands campaign has turned up alive. He's 18-year-old Scots guardsman Philip Williams, whose home is at Halton, near Lancaster. He walked into a farmhouse at Bluff Cove at the weekend, unhurt, but saying he'd lost his memory. Williams was a stretcher-bearer during the fighting at Tumbledown Mountain on June the 14th. News of his survival astonished his family when they were told this morning. He'll be flown back to Britain in the next 48 hours. Britain's newest aircraft carrier, HMS Illustrious, set sail from Portsmouth today for the South Atlantic. She completed her sea trials in a record 6 weeks and she'll now relieve her sister ship, the Invincible, off the Falklands. The first cash grants to servicemen's widows from the South Atlantic Fund are going out this weekend, and the government says the average payment will be about £10,000. No Sea Link ferries have sailed out of UK ports with British crews since 9 o'clock this morning, but many passengers have got around the National Union of Seamen strike by using other ferries. NUS crews at Portsmouth and Weymouth decided tonight that Sea Link services to the Channel Islands will continue in some form despite the strike. A strike by 4,000 crewmen is in protest at Sea Link's planned pay cuts and other economies on the Harwich route. The two sides in the dispute are now meeting at the headquarters of the Conciliation Service, ACAS. Mr. Bob Mellish, the former Labour Chief Whip, has resigned from the Labour Party. Mr. Mellish has been an MP for 37 years and a member of the party for 55. He says that Labour now is not the party he joined, and he described his local constituency, Bermondsey, as a mafia. His resignation preempts a move by his local Labour Party to expel him in favour of Peter Tatchell, who's an extreme left-winger. After the fiercest Israeli attack so far, President Reagan has called for an end to the fighting around Beirut. He told the Israeli Foreign Minister, Mr. Shamir, the world could no longer accept a situation of constantly escalating violence. Earlier, President Brezhnev wrote to Mr. Reagan calling on him to take urgent steps to stop the fighting. There have been more artillery exchanges today to the north of the airport, but they weren't on the same scale as yesterday's attack. Two bodies found in Zimbabwe have been identified as those of British travellers missing since July the 14th. A relative confirmed they were Nicola Prankard, aged 24, and her 32-year-old brother Richard. British firms have been told by the government to go ahead with contracts connected with the Siberian gas pipeline in defiance of a United States embargo. The Trade Secretary Lord Cofield said Britain's trading interests demanded that contracts with the Soviet Union be fulfilled. Newsnight at 10 to 11 reports on a war in the Middle East, a failed coup in Africa, and the state of the sherry business in Spain. After some of the fiercest fighting in the war in Beirut in the last 36 hours, the 9th ceasefire is still in force, albeit somewhat shakily. Ian Smith will be examining the Israeli point of view with Israel's minister at the embassy in London. And from the vineyards of Spain, David Tyndall reports on the dire situation of the sherry industry, where production far outstrips demand and barrels of sherry mount up by the million, waiting for buyers and presumably drinkers. That's Newsnight at 10 to 11. And now a look at the weather.